Hello, Sagittarius. Welcome to the Plaid Oracle. If you've been here before, you may notice that the angle is a little different, but I wanted you to be able to see these beautiful tulips that I got at the farmer's market this morning. And I hope that you will enjoy them as much as I am enjoying them. So this reading of this eclipse space, this card actually popped out, which is the first time that's happened. I mean, these cards they're sort of large and I have small hands, so they're a little tricky for me to shuffle. But this is the first time a single card has sort of leapt out. And interestingly, it's this carried by the current. This is the Cantigee Oracle, and it has a really detailed guidebook with a little story for each card and lots of information. But I'm going to read you the story. It's a little longish, but I think you kind of need the whole thing. In your life as a crab, you accepted the weight of your shell and the slow plod of your gait without question. Your carapace was burdensome, but it protected you. The shell, your ponderous, deliberate movement, this was all simply how you were. Just as the fish that swam swiftly above you were quick and sleek, but exposed to the teeth of larger fish. No armor is foolproof, however. A day came when a great wave swept you onto a shore. As the other crabs, carried by the wave, stumbled and heaved on the wet sand back toward the water, you lay upside down on your back, your legs futilely waving in the air as smaller waves lapped the shore beyond your reach. Before another substantial wave could right you or drive you back into the sea, an albatross swooped down from the nearby bluff, devoured you, and took wing over the boundless ocean. The great old crab once told you, when other creatures are eaten, their consciousness merges with the animal that ate it. But that is not how it is with us crabs. Our shells, though discarded by the animal, maintain an influence on our minds that keeps us separate. Thus, our awareness lives on within the animal, distinct from its sentience. And so it was. You were within the albatross, and yet everything it did was new and alien to you. After a life of plodding, belabored steps, you were now weightlessly speeding through the air, your mind agape with liberation and wonder. Endless liquid undulated far beneath you as invisible wind bore the bird's great span of wings over some immeasurable vastness of space and time. Oh, Sagittarius. I want to say that you are becoming, that you are experiencing the kind of pure spirit of Sagittarius, of that swift, fiery movement, right? The spirit of travel, the spirit of exploration, the spirit of carrying the torch of knowledge to other places. But that up until this point, perhaps, you have been efforting, laboring. And the card at the bottom is this thorn in the paw. And this is a very short little story about the bear seeing that he has a thorn in his paw and just pulling it out and then continuing on his way. That you can just, right? You just pull the thorn out. And maybe you couldn't see that before. Maybe you thought that there was some great effort that needed to be done, that something had to be achieved. That can be a fire sign thing. This, a need for achievement of some kind. That heroism be required. But in fact, you're seeing that you can just pluck it out. And that's it. And then the helper cards are, first of all, this Land of the Vanished. And it has kind of an interesting story. I'm not going to read because it's kind of long, but essentially it's about you emerging into this luminous space where you are no longer bound by all the rules and requirements and weights of kind of this societal life. And that as you emerge in there, you meet someone else who has been there, and they, like everything that's in this place, is glowing. And you ask them, how did you come to be glowing? And they just smile at you, and you realize that you are beginning to glow too. That simply the act of entering this other space gives you this glow. And then the other helper card is a fork in the river. Right? Choosing, essentially. Making the choice to be healed, to be well. Making the choice to be well, to enter this glowing space, to pull the thorn out of your paw. Rather than, efforting and thinking about how should I pull it out, and do I need antiseptic, and do I need a scalpel, how to rinse, and all of that. Just pluck it out. So the supporting cards are from the Surrealist Tarot. And we start with the Ace of Cups. The new love, a new perspective on emotion. This cup figure has stepped out onto a balcony, seeing suddenly. It's as if you didn't know the balcony was there. That you were wandering around this building on the inside, and you had no idea that there was this whole vast world outside. And then you step out onto the balcony and see. And so we have the Eight of Wands as a helper here. Right, this Eight of Wands that is on the palette. It is also, right, I sort of feel like it's both the painting and the palette and the brush. It's all of these things. Energy and inspiration. And then also the Five of Wands with some inspiration, some action, some like breaking up of what was there. If you've ever gone into a house that's been shut up for a long time, it feels so good to open the windows and let the air in. And actually, here we also have this Page of Wands with his own palette. And the Ace of Wands. So there's all this inspiration that is waiting. Sagittarius is this kind of free spirit. And it may be that you have felt free in many ways. Maybe you've done a lot of traveling and going places. But I want to say that there was some aspect of you that was always locked up and locked down. That even though you appeared to be traveling to all of these places in the physical world, that some part of you remained under lock and key. And that is ending now. Assuming that you make that choice, right? You come to that fork in the river. And so we have the Star. And I feel like there may be some artistic aspect, I want to say. Maybe because we've had all these paint palettes, and she has this this pen nib. So writing, some creative writing or artwork, I think may be significant, and maybe that may be part of the adventure that you have yet to take. And then we get the Hermit here, fresh out of his egg. And with a second egg, this eye, right? Like this all-seeing eye. And what's interesting is that the eye is not part of him. That this is, right, a representation of connection to source, right? The true all-seeing eye. So you're not going to see everything, but you do have a connection to that source. And then the Nine of Pentacles. And what stands out for me here is this blooming rose. I feel like this is sort of the first sign that this rose is going to bloom, and then this whole figure is like going to crack apart and come alive into flesh. That this is about, right, about breaking out, being birthed out of something that has held you in. Right, we have the symbol of this shell and the eggshell and this stone carving. Oh, and then your fairy card is so good, the fairy godmother. And I'm going to read you a little bit of her card. She gives us grace to help us along our way. It might be a little touch of fairy dust to lift a mood. It might be a conspicuous miracle. It might be anything in between. She protects us from the ill will and plain stupidity of others and from our own mistakes. She untangles the snarls in our psyches and bestows gifts upon us, whatever she feels we need. Sometimes she gives us choices when we thought we had none. Grace is the good fortune we get from the universe even when we don't deserve it. In fact, deserving or not deserving is not the issue. We are, and therefore we are loved. It's that simple. Seri, the fairy godmother, is a giver of grace, and occasionally, quite often in fact, of useful lessons. She tries not to interfere with our learning processes, but she adds the little touch of fairy grace that helps us to learn a little faster sometimes. So that this touch of grace showing up for you now, Sagittarius. And it's interesting, this eclipse is trine Sagittarius. So that's a fast and easy moving energy. So you may find that something comes in so swiftly, right? That Eight of Wands energy coming in so swiftly as soon as you make this choice. Her helpers are the singer of intuition. So listening to the still small voice. And oh, that gnome, who, right, is about keeping a sense of humor, about the unexpected. about fun and good spirits. So we have Raven Spirit, Truth. And I'm noticing that there are red flowers in this card. And when I was at the farmer's market, I had the choice of different bouquets, and this one really, right, I really wanted this red one. This redness. And it actually will show up several more times. So truth. Knowing the truth of yourself, that you are worthy of all things, that it isn't about deserving or not deserving, that you just are. So any sense of inadequacy, that you didn't do enough, that you weren't heroic enough, brave enough, that you've been too slow, perhaps. That is not the truth. That's just stuff that got laid on top of you. This crab shell, this stone castle, and this, right, this armor. And her helpers are this guardian of spring, an activation, and trust. And trust. I know it's a tricky thing, trust. We want, right? We want assurances. But this is about building trust, in good measure, trust in yourself. And then below that actually is manifesting dreams. Oh, and the elves with playfulness, and the spirit guardian of summer with expansion. So then we have the Knight of Pentacles. And this is about persistence, about doing this over and over again in the beginning. Making this choice to pull the thorn out can happen more than once. You know, maybe that you pull the thorn out, but then there's a choice. Do you go back and look at the thorn again? Do you spend all of your time looking around on the ground as you walk to make sure there aren't other thorns? Right? So there's ways that things can sneak up on us. But the Knight of Pentacles is constant. He is faithful. He is with you. And he will help you. And not only him, but the Fool. So these two energies together, both, right, the faithful and the open, the mirthful. And then this Seven of Wands. So courage, valor, steadfastness, standing your ground for yourself. And that may mean, even standing your ground against your own internal BS. And below that, too, we have the Ace of Wands. Repeating. That inspiration is there, waiting for you to pick it up. So then we have this 10 of Aether, right? It's the corpse. And here maybe you've been protecting the corpse, right? This fiery tiger nature has been protecting the corpse. Because fire signs, I think, do have that inclination, right, to protect. And so you may feel even the need to protect your old self, your old coping mechanisms, the familiar misery. Because it served its purpose. It was there for you when you needed it. And so now maybe you feel as if you have to protect it. Maybe you have to, feel like you have to justify choices you made in the past. That is not necessary. And the helper's there to help you with that. 2 of Pentacles. Love, self-compassion. And Temperance, your card. Right? And I enjoy this Temperance because she's really relaxed, right? She's not intent on any particular task. She's got her glass of wine there. She's right? She's not overly concerned about anything. Right? Moderation in everything, including effort. So we have the Soul Shrinker. And the Soul Shrinker is kind of like Nanny McPhee. Except sort of in reverse. He starts out, or maybe the Portrait of Dorian Gray too, he starts out beautiful, and then as he encounters, vitriol and meanness and spite and self-condemnation or condemnation of others, he becomes deformed. But I think that he is like Nanny McPhee in that if he then encounters beauty and compassion and friendship and love and teamwork, right? All those things that Nanny McPhee fosters, he will become beautiful again. And so we have, this card that comes after it, this Toadstool's Growth. And I want to say that maybe you think that you're like the Soul Shrinker, that you're covered in, something unsightly, that you've made so many mistakes that you're kind of not fit to be seen in some way. But that is not so. Right? The toadstools, these things that you've been through, they have shaped you, but they've given you incredible gifts too. And mushrooms metabolize that which is decaying. So I feel like that these toadstools will, kind of consume the outside of you, the shell, the brittle outer covering that you've been carrying around, and then they will just fall away. Because then we have this purification card and this lightness. like the crab who is transformed through his experience, right? Through this death experience. And he is able to see from the perspective of the albatross, to experience that lightness. And then we have this guardians of the land protection. And so that is when you really grow into this protector. Right? It's not that you're going to protect others from some outside catastrophe or attack. You are a guardian that helps people protect themselves kind of from their own BS, from their own internal meanness towards themselves, from bitterness. Right? Bitterness is terrible. Right? It can lead us to do things out of spite. Sometimes even things that are self-harmful, right? Cutting off your nose to spite your face. And because you have learned that beauty can be restored, that lightness and the truth of who you are can be restored and seen again, that you can receive grace, that is what you will provide for others. That is, right, you are this stag. And Solus, I think this is his third appearance during these readings. And it's interesting because he will be, right, the sun will be temporarily obscured by the moon. But he is here showing up as light, as clarity, as knowing, as understanding. And the three cards that came with him, and I'm going to show them all at once, are the Lovers, the Ten of Wands, and the Two of Cups. So this, right, this efforting is surrounded by love, by choosing love, by choosing kindness, compassion, beauty, balance, temperance, choosing love over fear, making the expansive choice when you get to the fork in the river. And also the marriage of things, of dark and light, of expansion and contraction, the cycles of life. But mostly it is about making the loving choice. First of all, for yourself, and then in relationship with others, right? For yourself and with others. And then we have Mickle the Muckle. I think I might read you a little bit of him too. When we stop pretending to be adults for a moment, stop trying to live up to some impossible and probably boring standard, we can regain the clear, direct vision of a child. We can, like Mickle, see things as they really are, truth, and we can focus on the present moment, which is our only place of power. Here and now is where we can do things, change things, and enjoy real things instead of mere ideas and dreams. Mickle reminds us that the past is past, gone forever. The future is just a dream, and now is the only time we have moment by moment. Mickle is a great adventurer, an explorer of life. He leads us to hidden, surprising, magical places if we let him. So what do we have? We start with this Four of Fungi, which is like the Four of Pentacles, perhaps weighed down by responsibilities, by things we've accumulated. And I mean, there are ways that actual things can be a responsibility. You know, if you own 3 cars, right, you have to take care of all of them. But I think it's mostly a mindset, you know. The example that's coming to mind is people who own their own business. And you can approach that by being the only one who knows how to do anything right. I have to do it myself, even if I have employees. And you end up, you know, buried under it. And you lose the joy in this thing that you began out of love. So you know, lots of business books will advise you essentially to learn how to delegate and to create systems so that you're not chained the whole time. And I think that life in general is this way. That you can create a life that's incredibly burdensome, where there's all these details and you have to attend to them all the time, and there's this and that and the other thing. But that on the other hand, with some imagination, some discernment, you can create a life that isn't like that. And so we have the Queen of Wands. This is a woman with discernment. All the queens, I think, have discernment. I mean, the Queen of Swords is the ultimate. But all of the queens are masters of their particular element. And she has discernment about what projects to take on, about which inspiration to follow, about, you know, when she rests, about really taking care of herself, right? She is, you know, here, she knows when to relax, in addition to when to move. And she is also here showing up as Aries and this eclipse. And then the Hierophant. And this is also more redness, right? Here she is in her, right? There was a bunch of redness in the toadstools, some in the lovers, here in her red dress. And then the Hierophant too, the major arcana in this deck are bordered in red. And he is, you know, personal power and authority. And connection to the all that is. So you have that, Sagittarius. You have the understanding, right? I sort of feel as if, right, this is a little bit of a repeat, right? The stag in this kind of semi-human form. There's also, right, this note of shape-shifting with the crab that learns to be an albatross, and this stag that kind of grows a human body or is half and half. This sense, right, of these toadstools, right, that can kind of overgrow you and obscure you, but you can also let them, right, you can let them metabolize what you don't need and then remove them and move forward in this refreshed way. And certainly, Sagittarius, you are mutable. There is a shape-shifting quality to you. And even the Knight of Pentacles, you know, he's seen as the slowest moving knight, but he's Virgo, which is mutable. He is still moving. He's not the King of Pentacles who sits on the throne. Taurus's card. He is mutable. That mobile, shape-shifting energy. so that you are not encased. All right, Sagittarius. I've been pulling a few extra cards. Let's see where yours want to come from. Any final message for Sagittarius? Bottom of the deck. So sorrow, yeah, which we can get stuck in this space. But below that we have the Ace of Wands reappearing, or the 8 rather, of Wands reappearing. Fast moving energy, right? To just move through it. And then also the Knight of Cups. That cup, that loving, romantic energy, and it's more mutable energy. This is Pisces card. So we've had almost all the mutables. Virgo, Pisces, and you, Sagittarius. Oh, and I'm going to go a little further. There's the High Priestess and her intuition. And then the Lovers and the Fool. Oh, and the Two of Cups on the very bottom. Oh. So, firstly, the Hierophant. Know the truth of yourself. Know the truth of yourself, that you have authority, that you have personal authority. That you are your own vicar, that you don't need a mediator to source. Then the Five of Swords, and I'm going to say not defeat, but just change. Changing the mind. I think this is sort of Gemini coming in a little bit, although this is, the 5 is Aquarius's card. But actually the 10 of Swords, the 10 of Aether is Gemini's card. So Gemini is here as the 4th mutable. So changing, right, the ability to change your mind. And the Tower. So this electric energy that we are entering into. The Tower showed up for Scorpio. So there is change coming. And it may not, we'll see how it comes through. I was listening to Rick Levine's a video of his where he was talking about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's coming on the 20th of April as we enter Taurus season in Taurus. And actually on that day, the moon will oppose Neptune at the moment of that conjunction from Virgo to Pisces. More mutable energy in the mix. And Mars will trine the conjunction, which is, right, Mars energy is the Tower. So during those conjunctions, lots of interesting things have happened. Sometimes things that don't, necessarily seem big. Darwin's publication on the origin of species, a meeting of the scientists who brought us the quantum theory So there's, you know, there can be breakthroughs that take a little time to unfold, but they are there, right? There is electricity on its way. I think you're really ready to go, Sagittarius. And I wish you the very, very best. And I will see you next time. So long.